One last thing that I also wanted to mention about fixing and cleaning up your drawings in Photoshop is that many times we'll have a smudge on our paper, and I'm just going to draw one in here um, just for this example. So let's say that I have a smudge right there. One pretty easy way to fix those is actually by either using um, this rectangular marquee tool, or I also like to use the polygonal lasso tool. And all you need to do is kind of select the area around the smudge. It doesn't have to be perfect. And now I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to copy this white background color to my foreground. So this is the foreground color and this is the background color. Right now my foreground color is black, and with the eyedropper tool I'm going to make it the same color as whatever this paper was. And now I'm going to go under Edit, Fill. And what this fill command does is that it fills whatever is currently selected. So in this case, it's this polygonal shape that I drew with my polygonal lasso tool. So instead of using black, I'm going to select foreground color, which is this foreground color we just picked out with our eyedropper. I'm going to hit OK, and it just fills that entire area with the background color and cleans up that smudge for me. Okay, now that we have cleaned up all our smudges and we've used the levels to make our background white and all our lines really crisply black, we're ready to import this into Adobe Illustrator. And I'm gonna go ahead and save this as a ping. So I'm gonna say Save As, Drawing, and I'm gonna select the ping format. And the reason why I want a ping file is because it applies compression only once. If you use a JPEG, it'll compress every time you save it, and over time it'll degrade your image. So a ping is a much better file format for preserving your artwork. I'm just going to hit save, and I'm going to choose smallest compression so it can provide me a small file size. And I don't really need interlaced frames right now, so I'm going to check none since this image is ultimately going to be printed on paper. I'm going to say OK. And now I'm going to go over and switch over to Illustrator, where I've already created an artboard that's 11 by 17, the same size of my image. And I've renamed the layer to call it image because this is where I'm going to import that image we were just working on. So I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm going to select my drawing, and in this case I'm going to select link as an import option. Sometimes you want that unchecked because you want that file to be embedded inside your Illustrator file. If you check link, it will always be linked to the actual file of your drawing file, and the reason why that can be problematic is that if for any reason I move this drawing file to a different directory, then I'm going to have missing links that I'm going to have to replace on my Illustrator file. But the handy thing about it is that if I make any changes to this file, it'll automatically change them because it's linked. So I'm going to choose link, hit place, and now it's asking for an insertion point. And since I know my image is exactly 11 by 17, I'm just going to go to this corner here, click once, and it puts it right in place. Now, in Illustrator, there's many things that you can do with an image like this. You can actually use Illustrator to label your plants, but in this video we're going to take a look at how to color in a hand-drawn line work drawing just like this one with Adobe Illustrator. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create something called the image trace of this file. So I'm going to select the drawing, Control C or Command C in the Mac to copy, and I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call it image trace, and I'm going to lock and hide the original image. And now I'm going to, with this layer selected, I'm going to go edit, paste in place. It's just going to paste another copy of that same image, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to actually turn this image into vector information. and I'm going to destroy the original pixel image by doing so. So I want to keep a copy of the original image in a separate layer. So now that I'm here, I'm going to go up here to my control panel and pick image trace. And it's just warning me that it's a fairly large image, so it might take some time to process. And there we go. Just to show you initially what it's doing, I'm going to expand this here real quick. And you can see that this is no longer pixel information. It's actually a bunch of little lines and shapes that it's created based on the pixels that are similar to one another. I don't actually like this result because I'm losing a lot of the detail in here that I had previously, so I'm going to undo. And I'm going to undo one more time. The other thing that I've noticed in here is that my title block is actually, when it was scanned in, it's not perfectly straight. So I'm actually going to go back to Photoshop and get that fixed real quick. So here's my image still open in Photoshop. I'm just going to do Control A to select everything and Control T to transform, and now I get these little handles up here, and I'm just gonna freehand it to try to get it as parallel with the canvas as possible. I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter. I'm going to save my file, and now when I go back to Illustrator, I get this message pop up that says that some files are missing or modified in the links panel. Would you like to update them now? And I'm going to hit yes because those are the updates that I just made, and now it's fixing them for me on both layers. Okay, so that's pretty good. And now I can choose this and do an image trace on it like we were doing before. And for image trace, as long as I do not hit the expand button, this is still editable. I can change the options of that trace. And we also have a new feature in Adobe Illustrator CC where we have an image trace panel, where we have a lot of options to control what this appearance is going to look like. There's a bunch of different presets which I encourage you to look at. But I'm just going to use this Shades of Gray preset, so I think it'll help bring in a little bit more detail for this drawing. And you can see in here what the tracing result is. I'm just going to try to add a little bit more detail in here. Okay, and I think that's good enough for now. It's not a perfect trace, but it's good enough for what we want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit expand. And I'm going to ungroup, because once you expand it makes it into groups. Just to make sure that we don't have any more groups. Okay, that's pretty good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the shapes that it's created. So it's created shapes both, you can see here, for the strokes. So like all of these black shapes are one. And it's also created shapes for the white parts. So this box, for example, is a shape. I'm going to Control Z that. And I'm actually interested in this shape. I want to be able to color in this lawn area. So I'm just going to use a generic swatch for that. I'm going to go over to Window, Swatch Libraries, Gradients, And I'm gonna pick this one, foliage, and making sure that my fill for that shape is selected. I'm gonna pick this gradient because I think it looks pretty neat. And I'm gonna go ahead and create a new layer, and I'm gonna name this layer color, and I'm gonna drag this shape into that layer. Okay, so now I'm going to drag this color layer underneath my image, and I'm gonna hide my image trace layer, turn on my image, and I actually would like for my original image, since I like the way the line work is in this, I want that to still show and use that for my line work. But I can't see the color pieces that I'm bringing in because the background in this image is still white. So I'm gonna go back to Photoshop, and I'm gonna turn all of this white space into transparent pixels. And the way I'm gonna do that is I'm going to go to select color range, and what this function does is that it selects pixels of a similar color based on this fuzziness. So 0 means that it has to be exactly the same color. I'm just going to show you that with this eyedropper tool selected. You click on the white, which is what we want. And if there were additional colors that we would select, we just use the plus to add more colors. And you can see how it updates on there. I'm just going to pick the white and I say OK. And now all of my white pixels are selected. And I'm going to select inverse. So now all of the non-white pixels are selected. And with those selected, I'm going to go down here to my layers and I'm going to add a mask. So basically what that just did is it's masking out all of my white pixels, and the only pixels that are visible are the ones that were not selected, the black pixels. So I'm going to say, I think I might have a little bit up here. To edit, fill, black. Perfect. And now that looks good, I'm just going to say File, Save. And again, I want to override my existing file. Say Save. And now when I go back to Illustrator, I can just update that link to my image. So I can go to Window, Links, and you can see that it says that there's a link on here that needs updating. So I'm just going to select it and hit Update. And you can see that when I update it, now this image has a transparent background and I can see the shapes that are underneath of it. I'm going to lock this image layer and unlock my color layer. And here's my grass color render. And I can just use the same process to color in any number of the plants. I'm just going to do perhaps one more. So going back to the image trace, I'm going to select this one and I'm going to choose this color for the shrubs. I'm going to drag that shape into the color layer, turn off the image trace, and I can put some shadows on it. And this can become a pretty efficient way for you to color in your hand-drawn line work. Thanks for watching.